This week, we welcome Dr. José-Marie Griffiths, president at Dakota State University, to decipher the national cyber workforce and education strategy. In the leadership and communication section, how CISOs can engage the C-suite and board to manage and address cyber risk. CISOs need backing to take charge of security. It's okay to fail, but you have to do it right and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly.
According to the 2022 Data Breach Investigations Report, the human remains the number one driver of breaches today, demonstrating that cybersecurity is no longer just a technical challenge, but a human one as well. But how do you manage the human risks of cybersecurity? It starts with measurement. Only by effectively quantifying human risk can organizations engage employees with relevant activities to truly change human behavior. That's human risk management. Map key human behaviors to the business risks that matter most to your organization for free by visiting securityweekly.com/living security. If your organization is ready to embrace edge computing, we have good news. The 2023 AT&T Cybersecurity Insights Report provides everything you need to know to get started. In the report, we identify the common characteristics of edge computing. We found edge use cases are rapidly coming online, and we reveal how to secure edge computing, which is a dynamic, nonlinear, and unconventional approach to computing. Most importantly, you'll learn how to prepare for your edge ecosystem. Get your complimentary copy of the report today by visiting securityweekly.com/ATT cybersecurity. That's securityweekly.com/ATT cybersecurity. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 315, recorded August 7th, 2023. I am your host, Matt Alderman. We have a short co-host list today. Jason, it's just you and me, buddy.
Oh, good. We got this, my friend. And hey, by the way, guess what just started recently? NFL talk, my friend. Preseason football. I know.
Yeah, the local high school was doing a midnight practice because it's so darn hot in Texas right now. They got to practice in the middle of the night.
Wow. What's the temps out in Texas these days?
Let's see. It's currently like 104 or 5 right now. So yeah, it's hot.
Yeehaw. All right.
Yeehaw.
This is what makes me love New England.
It's great down here in the winter, though, buddy. It's great down here.
I bet.
Security Weekly listeners, now is your chance to join the InfoSec community as they come together at InfoSec World 2023, September 23rd to 28th at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Here are keynotes from Scott Shapiro, founding director at Yale Cybersecurity Lab, and Rachel Wilson, managing director and head of cybersecurity at Morgan Stanley. As a Security Weekly community member, you're able to receive 20% off your InfoSec World tickets by using code ISW23-SecWeek20. Register today at securityweekly.com/InfoSec World 2023. Dr. José-Marie Griffiths is president of Dakota State University in Madison, South Dakota. President Griffiths has spent her career in research, teaching, public service, corporate leadership, economic development, and higher education administration. She has served in presidential appointments to the National Science Board, the U.S. President's Information Technology Advisory Committee, and the U.S. National Commission on Libraries and Information Science. She has recently been appointed a member of the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, part of the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act for 2019, and is chairman of the Workforce Subcommittee for the Commission. Dr. Griffiths, welcome to Business Security Weekly.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate being here.
Yes, some really interesting news last week. When we were on the show, the White House released the new workforce strategy, and it happened to be right around the same time we were getting ready to bring you onto the show for an interview. And I thought, well, what a better way to kind of decipher the strategy than to have somebody who actually participated in some of these discussions to come right on the show and do it. So, Jose, can you give us a little bit of a background on kind of what led to this? Well, I think it's like a 60-page document of the workforce cyber strategy that was rolled out last week.
Yeah, certainly. Basically, I think last summer, the White House held a summit, a cybersecurity workforce and education summit. A bunch of people went there. I would say probably the majority of people who participated in the session that I was at were from the corporate sector. There were a few academics, and then there were government officials. And we met for basically a day, talking about the issue of how do we increase the number of cyber professionals in the United States, everything from how do we bring education through from K through 12 all the way through formal education, then into the workplace and continuing education. And as a result of that, there was a plan developed, a very preliminary plan. The people who attended that meeting, some of them made commitments. We made a commitment. I remember Gina Raimondo, the Secretary of Commerce, who you would know very well, having your Rhode Island connections, made a commitment. IBM made a commitment, etc. So it was just a sort of call to action. What can we do, and what will you do? And then I was quite surprised, actually, as the White House was preparing to finalize its strategy. Oh, no, about halfway through the year, we actually had a request for information that went out to everyone who was at that meeting, and presumably many others. And we submitted a white paper to that. So it's like responding, what were we doing and what did we think could be done to improve the educational system for cyber generally. And then there was nothing, and then nothing happened, dead silence. And then all of a sudden, the Thursday before the Monday this was being released, I get a call saying, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to know. We'd like an update. What have you been doing? Could you stop by the White House? Well, it just so happened I was not in South Dakota. I happened to be on vacation in Rhode Island, and I was going down to Washington, D.C. for some other activity. So I was able to actually go and meet with a couple of people at the White House. Meanwhile, sent them some information. But when I was there, we went over the strategy. I had a couple of comments on it. They took my input. They asked a couple more questions. We got them some more information. And then by the time I got back to South Dakota last week, out on Monday, came the strategy. I'm really pleased to see it happened. It's on time. They indicated that they would have the strategy announced. And so now we can all look at this and determine what role can we play in dealing with this rather significant education workforce development problem that we have in the United States.
Now, Dr. Griffiths, we hear a lot, depending on what media resource you look at. We hear figures from 400,000, 700,000 in the U.S., 3 million to 5 million in workforce gap globally. What's the consensus in Washington, D.C. Between all of these great stakeholders that you bring together? What is it? I think it's important to kind of set the stage. What is that magnitude of this skills gap?
I think the magnitude is certainly there. I think everyone agrees it's there. It's getting worse. It's not getting any better, actually. The number keeps going up. Every time I take a look, the CyberSeek, the number has gone up. But I think it's no longer just the workforce needs in cybersecurity, where all of this really started. It's the workforce needs in cybersecurity plus AI. And I just saw the first report. I could have predicted it will happen. We don't have enough talent in this country in quantum computing. So we're just going to need more and more people with these skills. And I was very pleased to see this strategy come out where they use the correct usage of cyber, which is all things computing and telecommunications and networking. And cyber doesn't automatically mean just cybersecurity. So the fact that they've come out with this broader approach, I think, is going to be very helpful. I've been to White House meetings on cybersecurity for all, AI for all. I was just waiting to see what else for all. And at least now they folded it into one and they're talking about cyber education. But the need is significant. The need is growing. And we just don't have enough people to fill the workforce needs that are emerging. And they just will continue to grow as these technologies continue to evolve and make significant impact in our lives and in the way we organize ourselves as a country.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I mean we've all seen a significant round of layoffs in tech industry, and to think that hasn't had effect on these numbers, huh?
It didn't have an effect at all, but I understand that many of the people who were laid off were hired within 3 months, were rehired somewhere else within 3 months because there is such a great demand. But, when I was looking at cybersecurity numbers a number of years ago, we projected the workforce needs, and then everybody said, well, AI is going to be even bigger. And so the thoughts now get into well over 1 million for the United States, let alone what we're saying now. So it's huge. And I think as the country, we have to think about that future. What are we going to have to do? And there's no single answer, and there's no single party that can solve the problem. We really are going to all have to come together.
Yeah.
It's
if you
interesting.
Could take that. Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead,
Sorry
Jason.
about that.
I was going to say, it's interesting how the strategy was laid out into these 4 pillars. Back to your point, right? It's going to take everybody. The first pillar is equip every American with foundational cyber skills. Like, it's a really interesting pillar because, look, in the industry, we've attempted to do parts of that with our own employees, and we're still not there. But it's a pretty broad statement and a pretty broad pillar. The other 3 are more focused around the workforce component. I was just curious, Dr. Griffiths, like, what do we have to do to like move the needle on getting every American with foundational cyber skills?
Well, you're right. This is the coming together of cyber for all, or cybersecurity for all, AI for all, etc. Into everybody needs foundational skills, and if you think about it, they will. Everybody is going to be interacting with technology and technology enhanced services in some way. If they don't understand them, at least have a basic understanding that things are being developed and things are being promoted to them, and they're getting services that are provided by a machine as opposed to a person, then I think we're in trouble. We have to understand that technologies are here to stay. They are already part of our everyday lives. I think we're way, way late in this process, by the way, but somehow this is a national concern, and that should be a national priority. I understand there are people who are concerned about their jobs, but we've created more jobs than ever. The key is to give those people pathways to those new jobs if they've got an existing job that's not going to survive. But I think the economy is going to be very positive if we can leverage the capabilities that we have in education. And we're going to have to say education comes from more than just the traditional educational establishments. Everybody is going to have to start playing a role in this educational future.
So I look at that and I immediately think, and we talked in a little bit in the pre-show banter, that my passion really is in the K through 12 space, right? This is going to require a huge investment in K through 12, educating the educators. We're already seeing a squeeze with not being able to have enough teachers. Now throw cybersecurity and the larger cyber conversation into the mix. How are we going to get these educators to be out there and doing it? And then the other question is breaking it up by your grade levels, right? Because I look at it from a perspective where, you could have elementary school children learning about cybersecurity when it comes to awareness for their online behavior and cyber hygiene, really attacking the middle school level. And this is where I fell in. If I knew that my aptitude leaned toward technology in middle school, I would have made different decisions in high school, right? So knowing that there's that exposure and that it's there, and then high school, being able to get yourself workforce ready, because I wasn't initially built for college. I went to the Marine Corps, and I took the ASVAB test and learned my aptitude in 12th grade. For me, that was way too late, right? Mm-hmm. I made a career out of it. I went out and got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and continued on after the military. But if it wasn't for that ASVAB test, I would have never known. So really, how do we chop that up? Because this is going to take a huge investment in K through 12 and getting the educators up to speed.
You're absolutely correct. And it probably starts with pre-K, not K. And we're going to have to do that. Now, there are states that have developed curricula from K through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 upwards. Not every state has done it. It's one of the dilemmas of the state system that we have is we aren't all coordinated and working sequentially and syncing our educational programs. Getting the teachers engaged is going to be important. But I can tell you, the young people aren't afraid of technology. and they just lap it up. So it's not the young students. It really is going to be what kind of guidance can the teachers give them. And, we've been engaged at Dakota State in teacher camps, and we've been engaged in teach the teacher program, particularly for middle school teachers. It's a never-ending activity. I don't think we'll be out of business for a long time because we'll continue to be working on these things. But we have to set it as a national priority. I mean, there are countries that have set STEM education as a national priority for the future. If we don't do that, if we say, well, maybe we don't have to have everybody do that, then we just further exacerbate the digital divide. We have the haves and the have-nots, and some people will be able to move quickly and others won't. So somehow, what are the basics that everybody needs to know at which grade level becomes important? You're absolutely correct about middle schools. That's where we lose young people for the future in STEM education, particularly young girls. And we have to find a way to make sure that we can keep them engaged. Again, we have a number of programs with middle schoolers, middle school camps. We have our students going out and talking with everything from grades 5 through grades 8. So it's not old people like me, it's young people going out and talking to them and getting them involved, not by saying, here's what you need to know, but hey, let's try this. Let's program a robot. Let's see if we can do that. And the young people are lapping it up and they're learning principles all the time without necessarily realizing what they're learning. And when they get to a certain age, we can say, but you know how to do this. You've already done it. Now you just apply it here. So I think that's a huge issue. And parents should know that this is going to be important if they want their children to be successful. We have programs sometimes where we involve parents along with children. We're going to be doing that with our cyber academies. We just all have to realize this is going to be important. It's no longer the same way of learning about technology that we learned, right? We used to have manuals. Heaven forbid, what's a manual? It's trial and error now. And young people learn from their peers. So we don't have to have everybody at the same rate. As long as some people within those classes are comfortable and know what's going on, it will sort of diffuse through a whole class of students as they go forward. And by the way, the ASVAB is interesting because we made a lot of recommendations that it didn't test for the kinds of competencies that would be needed for AI and future technologies. We made a strong recommendation that it be updated.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Thank you for that.
So a lot of investment, which means a lot of time, which means this is going to take us years to solve. So what do we do in the interim? Like, there's also some discussions about strategies in the interim, right, of how do we expand the workforce with existing, because the education system is going to take time for us to continue to produce more and more of the skill sets through that system. What are the other things we have to think about in the strategy in order to fill the gaps now?
Good question. I think one is for employers who have people who have some capabilities in the technology, capabilities and qualifications in related technology areas, to look at some very quick upskilling, potential reskilling for the existing workforce. We have people who have taken relatively early retirement, who are still young, vibrant, and able to participate. Perhaps we should recall them to participate, maybe in actual technology environments, or perhaps working with the K through 12 environment because they've got that experience. The other thing we have to recognize, and this is important, and we're sort of recognized in the national strategy, and I was glad to see it there, we can't do this on domestic talent alone. We simply don't have enough people coming forward for this future. So we're going to have better immigration policies that bring in the best tech talent from around the world, perhaps keep those people from around the world who've come to the United States for their formal education and keep them here longer, rather than saying you have to leave after 24 months. So it's a combination of a domestic activity, all hands on deck, but then also an immigration policy that a legal immigration policy that brings in the best tech talent from our allies and other nations that we're working with. So again, it really is a multidimensional approach, hence the ecosystem, which goes well beyond the United States.
Yeah. One of the other thing I noticed as well was that it advocates for skills-based hiring practices versus our traditional gates that we have in HR that say, do you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a master's degree? And it's really flipped toward more of a skills-based hiring practice. And that's, for me, that's kind of that beacon in the dark for private sector to go out there and say, hey, listen, it's time for us to change our hiring methodology here so we can bring in really good talent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's, formal education should recognize that. It's not just about the formal qualification. It's about what people do. There's a big call for young people to get more practical experience and experiential learning through their education. So having portfolios where they can talk about the projects they've done or the internships they've had or the apprenticeship they've been through become very, very important.
Yeah, when we were talking during the prep, we were talking a little bit about H-1B visas, right? In that program, should it be expanded? You said there were some interesting. We don't hand out all of our H-1B visas currently.
No, we don't. H-1B is actually, it's one of those things that goes. The number that are requested every year goes up and up and up and up. But it turns out that we don't actually give them all out. And again, another recommendation from the National Security Commission was, in fact, could we just carry them over from year to year so that, in fact, we can now give up those accumulated extra ones that were never given out in the prior years. That would be an easy way to bring in some more tech talent from outside of the United States.
Right.
So, Dr. Griffiths, one of the long-term strategies that I've thought through is really how do we get to a point where we're reskilling folks, right? And again, I mean, it may be a short term depending on your background, but I also think for folks changing careers, if they could put a year's worth of education in, they could get reskilled into the workforce. And I think military right away, folks who are in the military, folks who may have been in similar careers or have that aptitude for technology. Are there provisions in this for that reskilling of adult? Let's call it reskilling of adult learners. How about that?
Yeah, that's a very, very good way to go. There are different ways to do that. I think one is through, not everybody has to get academic credit, right? We can remove ourselves from the formal education academic credit. And there are lots of organizations that are offering courses, et cetera, which are backed up with digital credentials for competency-based demonstration that people have actually are able to do the work. So they're able to demonstrate the skill. And I think that's a way forward too. Again, this has been done. There have been many different types of reskilling, upskilling opportunities. I think now we need to tie them very, very clearly to the needs in the workplace, and tie the experiential component and define it very, very clearly so that people can demonstrate it. And then they could carry digital credentials forward. And there should be a way, should people wish to do it, to carry those digital credentials and their experience forward into, if they wish to upgrade their education to another level. All these credentials should be stackable, so that they can carry them along with them and say, oh, I've got this piece, now I need that piece, and just be advised that putting certain pieces together make the full puzzle. Putting other pieces together might not. So as long as we give people what we would call educational pathways of one kind or another, with the ability to stack different kinds of credentials, the ability to get to have their prior work acknowledged in some way, becomes very, very important. And there are programs where you can carry your technical training in the military into degree programs. We certainly have those articulations. I think in technical schools and community colleges, there's a lot of opportunity there, and those should be stackable forward. And having apprenticeships and internships that set registered, so people know that if you do these, it is valid and you actually do have the capability to perform the skills going forward is going to be important. But ultimately, the employers as well have to get engaged now and say, these are the skills that we need in these jobs. It can't be enough to say we need all these skills and you go pick them. We can't say you need this piece of paper that says you've got a degree. It really has to be more focused into job roles and urgency of need.
Just to tether into your comment really quick, is there a standard nationally for those badging and credentialing, non-diploma, non-graduate type or university type education, but more of that certificate-based badging. Is there a national standard that we could go look toward to say this is the gold standard for those type of?
That's a good question. I don't think there is a single standard. There are some emerging standards. Okay. We've standardized everything that we offer. Is by standard. We also work to register them with one of the registering agencies. So again, everybody can see what they've done. Everybody can see what they contain. Everybody can see what's involved. I have to say, when there was a big push for cybersecurity education, and as I said, that was one of the first big pushes for a large number of graduates, the National Security Agency worked, and Department of Homeland Security worked very, very carefully to define the knowledge needed and the skills needed. And they defined that very carefully. And that's, in effect, how they define the academic centers of excellence. And they have those both at the 4-year degree programs and also for 2-year colleges. What's really nice about that is it's very, very well defined. So I can create an articulation with any number of community colleges around the country. If they've got the Academic Center of Excellence 2-year program designation, I can carry those automatically into our 4-year Academic Center for Excellence designations because they were very, very carefully structured. And the more we can do that, and I think the CyberSeeker and the National Institute of Standards and Technology and the National Infrastructure for Cybersecurity Education worked on this very carefully. We need to do the same in these other areas of technology as well, so that, if you're getting somebody who's got a qualification in vulnerability assessment or penetration testing, they've got at least the same basic capabilities coming out of that program with the digital credential that's registered somewhere.
That's great.
Very good.
Yes, very good. My final question, as a community, right, there'll be thousands of people that watch this segment. What can we do? What should we be doing as a community to help with these initiatives?
That's a very good question and a tough one in a way because there's much that could be done. I think first thing is become comfortable, read this full strategy, all 60 pages. Think about how you and your organization can participate. Where can you participate? Reach out to others in your community that are engaged in this, whether it be other corporations or federal government or academic institutions from K through 12 all the way through to universities. Who in your broader community is working on this? And I would hope we would start to define, here are some ecosystems. I'm hoping we can have one for South Dakota. I'm hoping Iowa can have it. Iowa's done some interesting things, so we can get out to the state and then states can connect with each other. But in addition to looking at what's going on in education, are there ways you can contribute to initiatives and activities and events in K through 12 or higher education? Anyone who's got some qualification or credential, who has a level of expertise in an area that's in a needed skill area, please volunteer to help teach. We need teachers in K through 12 schools. We need adjunct faculty in universities. We don't have enough teachers at either level to produce the number of people we can. And then please look at how you can mentor a class, how you could go in and talk to students in a K-12 class or in a university setting about career opportunities that exist. And then think about internship and apprenticeship possibilities for young people. How can we get that engaged? And then I would say, finally, just coming back now, less to the workforce than to the whole of society issue. A lot of people belong to the societies like Kiwanis and Rotary and Lions and all of these clubs. Go talk there, see what those people are doing, find ways to engage other people. This is actually a matter of national importance. It really is a strategy for our future. If we sit back for much longer, it's going to be too late. There will be other countries that will be jumped in. They've got a much more focused educational system. We in this country like to think, we support everybody in all of their endeavors. But from a workforce economic development perspective, this is absolutely critical. I don't think we can sit back and wait.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you just said. Matt knows that these are things that I've been preaching for such a long time, that every stakeholder group needs to be involved in this in a collaborative and a collective way. Whether it's industry, the public sector, higher ed, K through 12, the manufacturers, we really all need to tackle this. And us as leaders in the cybersecurity community, we have to put skin in the game. We can't just sit back and complain about this skills gap that's out there. We need to help move the needle. And really, it's up to you as an individual to figure out how you can help move the needle. I've done everything from sit on workforce advisory boards for the governor of the state of Rhode Island to computer science for Rhode Island that helps influence the universities here, all the way to volunteering for Girl Scout groups to get their cybersecurity badges, right? I mean, you want to talk about a full gamut of volunteerism. These are the different ways that you can engage, but we have to be committed and put skin in the game. Otherwise, we're not going to move the needle because it takes all of us. This is going to take a village.
Yep, exactly.
Yes, it is. Jason, you've done great work over the years. Dr. Griffiths, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break and then cover the leadership and communications articles for this week.